Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. These are the words of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. You who seek truth, who long for clarity amidst the turmoil of the world, must first understand the great and uncompromising demand of the Son of God when he said, "If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." These words are not poetic embellishment, nor mere counsel for the pious hour, but the unyielding condition for the awakening and the salvation of the human spirit. Their depth will elude the one who interprets them only according to the shallow concepts of earthly moralism. For here, the Christ did not address the superficial manners of man, nor the transient customs of the given age, but the innermost and immutable laws of the Creator, which govern the ascent or downfall of the soul. To deny oneself is not to mutilate the personality, nor to despise the gifts and capacities bestowed by the Creator. It is not a call to self-hatred, nor to the erasure of one's individuality. Rather, it is the command to renounce the rule of that false and tyrannical entity which men today often call the ego, a distorted shadow of the true self, born of disobedience and separation from God. This false self has enthroned itself in the human soul, demanding homage to its desires, exalting its own judgment above the will of the Creator, and bending every thought, feeling, and deed toward the preservation of its supremacy. So long as this ego remains enthroned, the light of God cannot penetrate the innermost chamber of the spirit, for the throne is already occupied by an intruder. The scriptures name this false self the old man, the flesh, or the carnal mind. It is the voice that whispers, "I will ascend, I will rule, I will be as God." Thus spoke the adversary from the beginning, and thus echoes his nature in the heart of every man who exalts himself. The denial of self, as the Christ commands, is therefore the dethronement of this usurper, the renunciation of its claim over life, the rejection of its demand for recognition, for power, and for the satisfaction of earthly lusts. It is the yielding up of the scepter to him to whom it belongs, the restoration of sovereignty to God within the temple of the human being. Yet, you must also perceive that the human being is not merely a creature of flesh. Beneath the mind and the emotions, beneath the layer that is shaped and wrapped by sin, there abides the true spiritual core, created in the image of God. This spirit is meant to rule the soul and the body in harmony with the Creator's will, but in most, it lies dormant, veiled by the thick garment of self-will, pride, and fear. When Christ bids you to deny yourself, he speaks not to destroy this true spiritual self, but to free it. The ego must die that the spirit may live. The false ruler must be deposed that the rightful heir may ascend the throne. Thus does the command proceed to the second great demand: take up your cross daily. This is no ornamental cross worn above the neck, nor mere symbol to be venerated. In the time of Christ, the cross was the instrument of public execution, the sign that a man was condemned to die. To take up the cross is to accept without condition the death of a self-sovereignty. It is the daily unwavering readiness to let go of all that the ego clings to, the craving for praise, the grasping at possessions, the fierce insistence upon one's own way. It is the death blow to pride, to vanity, and to delusion that life belongs to you to do with as you please. Each day this cross must be taken up anew, for the ego seeks to rise again each morning and reclaim the throne from which it has been cast. Herein lies the paradox that the only awakened spirits can grasp, that in losing this self, one finds life. The Christ declares, "Whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it." The life he speaks of here is the soul life of the fallen man, the psyche which clings to its autonomy, which refuses to bow to the law of God. The more a man clutches this life, the more he perishes. But the one who yields it up, who releases it into the hands of God, receives in return a life imperishable, a life hidden with Christ and God. Yet this death to self is not a work of momentary zeal. It is the part of a lifetime. It must be tested and proven in the small obedience as well as in the great sacrifices. It must be walked in the marketplace, in the home, and in the quiet hour, and in the moment of trial. Many imagine that they will surrender their life in a single heroic act if called upon, yet refuse to surrender the petty claims of the ego in their daily dealings. But the cross is not first born in the hour of death. It is born each day in the renunciation of the small rebellions, the subtle assertions of self-will, the quiet harboring of pride. The fruit of this part is not self-erasure but self-transfiguration. As the ego diminishes, the true self begins to emerge, pure, clear, and illuminated by the light. In such a soul, the life of Christ takes form until it can say with the apostle, "It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me." Then does the spirit move freely under the guidance of the divine will, no longer chained by the passions of the lower nature, no longer tossed by the storms of pride and fear. Such a soul has found rest, not because it is inactive, but because it labors in harmony with the eternal current of the Creator's law. And this is the liberation for which every spirit longs, though few recognize it. To be free from the tyranny of the ego is to be restored to one's true estate as a child of God. It is the exchange, the restless striving for supremacy with the serene joy of obedience. It is to stand once more in the stream of life that flows from the throne, unimpeded by the debris of self. Therefore, you who hear these words, do not treat them as distant ideals to be admired but not acted upon. Begin now in the small matter that confronts you today. Deny the claim of the ego to have the final word. Lay aside its demand to be honored, its cravings to be justified, its fear of being diminished. Take up the cross that stands before you, whether it be in yielding the last word in a quarrel, in giving generously without recognition, or in accepting a path that your pride resists but your conscience affirms. In so doing, you will begin to feel the loosening of the chains, the quiet strengthening of the spirit, and the gentle but firm hand of the Lord guiding you. It is a narrow path, and few find it, for it runs against the grain of the fallen nature, but it is the only path that leads to life. For it is the path of the cross, and the cross alone leads to resurrection. To deny yourself is to open the door for God to enter. To take up your cross is to step into the current of His will. And to follow Christ is to walk each day in the light of His word, until the self is no more and only the Spirit, united with God, remains. Thus will the throne be cleansed, the true ruler installed, and the temple of your being filled with the presence for which it was created. This is the victory over the ego. This is the liberation of the inner man. This is the fulfillment of the command. Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me.